Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. To the Texas A&M fans who've been rocking with the boys the last couple of weeks, we've talked about one monster storyline for this program on the recruiting trail. It's capitalizing on the chaos. You look across the SEC, you look across the college football landscape, there are so many programs that the future is murky. They're in turmoil, either firing their head coach, have their head coach on the hot seat, and then you look at Texas A&M and say, rock solid. In fact, I would make the argument, and I think a lot of Texas A&M fans that have followed this program for a very long time say, yeah, this feels different. Like, not only the football team in 2025 feeling different, the program and the trajectory of the program feels a little bit different. I mean, this is a monster opportunity for Texas A&M to really grab hold of this conference. And it starts with what you do on the recruiting trail. Now, we've quietly talked about some flip targets that have emerged, cats that are committed to LSU or cats that are committed to Auburn that are now available with these head coaches getting fired. This feels like the weekend. This feels like the weekend that if Texas A&M is going to finish with an exclamation point in 2026, this feels like this weekend matters a lot. Monster recruiting weekend going down in College Station. Want to talk about the players that will be on campus. I also want to talk about a sneaky transfer portal target that has already emerged. Now, it's early for us to be talking about portal targets, especially with how good A&M is in 2025. Mike Elko wants to compete for national championships every single year, and that means already looking ahead to, hey, what do we need to do in the offseason to put ourselves in a good spot in 2026? Very excited to get into this one. These are the kind of conversations that I love most. And to the Texas A&M fans, man, the amount of support this fan base has shown the boys, whether we're talking about what's going on the football field, whether we're talking about the recruiting trail, it's been amazing. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, look, we're already sitting really pretty in terms of the 2026 class. I'll say this real quick too, and we ain't going to talk 2027. There's a very good chance Texas A&M finishes with a top 5, maybe even top 3 class if this weekend goes well. The 2027 cycle, there's a really good chance, and I got to look at it a little bit more. There's a really good chance that this program can finish with the best recruiting class in the country. But let's focus in on 2026. Let's talk about the first, and I think the biggest visitor of the weekend, Bralan Womack. You look at Bralan Womack's recruitment, and many of y'all know how much I love this kid as a football player, and we'll get into that. You look at his recruitment, and it first started with Ohio State kind of being the lead dog, and then it went to Auburn late in the summer. Auburn ends up getting the commitment. Who finished second in that recruitment? It was probably Texas A&M. Well, now with Hugh Freeze gone, Bralan Womack's going to be taking some visits, and that visit's going to be this weekend to College Station. This is a monster opportunity to capitalize on that chaos. 5-star safety, do it all safety. And again, I don't want to be irresponsible with my player comps. When I look at Bralan Womack, it's hard not to see some Caleb Downs in him. I mean, he's 5'11", he's 200 pounds. He's a really good athlete, but what separates this kid is the intangibles, what's between the ears. You turn on the film, the game seems so easy for him. I mean, he's at the right place at the right time, pretty damn consistently. It's hard to find back 7 defenders that have the impact on the sport that Bralan Womack does. He can hold up in man coverage, can be supportive in the run game in the box, can be a ball hawking safety in the deeper third. There's nothing you can't do with this kid. There's a ton of versatility. There's a ton of different skill sets. Now, why is that so important? Because we know Mike Elko wants to get aggressive, wants to be versatile, wants to be multiple, wants to throw a lot of different things at an opposing offense. Well, if you want to do that, you got to have players that can do different things. Bralan Womack's that guy. I think by far the biggest target that will be on campus, but that's not it. I think the second guy, and many of y'all know I like this kid a lot too, KJ Ford. Duncanville, Yeah, look, dominates 6A football. What I love about KJ Ford is his ability to win and make an impact in so many different ways. I mean, he's got a really good first step and can beat tackles on the outside shoulder, but at the same time, he is an extremely powerful individual as well. That to me is where Cassius Howell took his biggest step in 2025. Cassius Howell went from really damn good last year to great this year. He was always really athletic, really had burst coming from Bowling Green. That power output probably needed to get, and you got to give a massive shout out to Texas A&M and what they did with Cassius Howell in the weight room. He just looks like a different human being than when he first got to Texas A&M from Bowling Green. But I guess what I was trying to say, I got a little sidetracked there, is that what I think has allowed Cassius Howell to take that step and become one of the best in the country, his ability to win in so many different ways. Was maybe a little bit one dimensional last year, just with his burst and bend. He is a powerhouse now in terms of going right through tackles. That's what KJ Ford is. KJ Ford can win with heavy hands, putting tackles into the lap of the quarterback, but also can win with some twitch. Also can win on the outside shoulder. When you get these edge rushers that are as multi-dimensional as KJ Ford, really hard to deal with. And he's good in the run game too. He plays with a mean streak to him that almost needs to be dialed back a little bit. But I'll say this, and I say this all the time. I'd rather have to dial back somebody than try to get that out of him. Similar to Cassius Howell too. I'm not trying to compare him to Cassius Howell, but Cassius Howell be walking that line. But I think that's what makes him great. Last one I want to talk about, Jaden Warren, a difference maker, speedster, explosive plays. And again, you talk about what's the biggest difference with this football team this year as opposed to last year. Yes, Marcel Reed has gotten better. Yes, the offensive line has gotten better. Yes, the defense has gotten better. I don't think there's one lesson. Let me think about the best way to say this. The biggest difference between Texas A&M in 2024 and the version that we see in 2025 is we got game changers on the outside and a ton of explosiveness. Texas A&M was, I'm not sure the numbers, but they were damn near dead last in 20-plus yard plays in the SEC last year. This year, they're one of the best in the country. And I think that starts with having guys like KC and Mario Craver that any time they touch the football, they can go change a game. Jaden Warren's kind of that cat. I mean, elite explosiveness and speed and playmaking ability. We'll see if Texas A&M can get in the fold. I think Mike Elko recognizes how important it is to have these kind of cats on your offense because Mario Craver and KC have revolutionized the way Texas A&M is playing offense. I want to just quickly reference this real quick. Kenyon Garner. Texas A&M is going to go after him in the portal. Again, I'm mentioning Cassius Howell a little bit more than I would like to because, again, Cassius Howell kind of one-on-one cat. Kind of reminds you of him, right? 6'4", 230. He's undersized. He does not look like an SEC edge defender right now when you go turn on. He's from, I want to get this right, Livingstone, excuse me. The Division II. 27 tackles, 14 sacks. He's got length. He's got a lot of twitch. Just needs a little bit more physicality in his game. They're very similar to how we talked about Cassius Howell coming from Bowling Green. Now, what interests me about Kenyon Garner is he's got 2 years of eligibility and a red shirt. Cassius Howell came from Bowling Green, was damn good last year as a rotational pass rusher. Well, you had him in your program for 2 years, and that second year he came on and said, I'm one of the best edge defenders purely in the country now. Like Kenyon Garner, you go grab him, and maybe he can provide some pass rush ability year one. To me, with 2 years of eligibility and a redshirt year, it's like, well, we get him in this program for 2 to 3 years. And I think there's some real upside there. You're selling him on the Cassius Howell trend. Like when he steps foot on campus, you are pointing out Cassius Howell and you're saying that can be you in 2 years. That the recruiting pretty damn simple for Texas A&M. That's the first target that we really know about. I am interested to see how aggressive Texas A&M gets in the transfer portal because mean, there's not a ton of holes, and there's a lot of young talent. I mean, maybe you have to figure out some moves on the offensive line because you're going to lose Trey Zune. Believe you're going to lose Mark. Believe you're going to lose Crownover and Ruben Fathery. Basantis might just go to the NFL draft. But outside of that, it's a well-constructed roster where there's not going to be a ton of holes in this team after 2025. We'll see what Texas A&M decides to do. Big weekend. Texas A&M commitment sweatshirt is on the beanbag, and so we'll see if it comes out this weekend. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.